Hello there! Welcome to the second episode of the ReZero podcast. I'm your host, Wolf. You may know me as the voice of Subaru and Liliana in our Arc 5 readings for the ReZero web novel. But I'm also the head of our wonderful Studio Reverie, the channel that hosts the readings and this podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about our expectations for the upcoming third season of the anime for ReZero. And we'll discuss production side of things when it comes to anime in general too. I'm here with my wonderful co-hosts, Palazard and Goldie XP. Goldie XP. Introduce yourselves, gentlemen. You know, I got it right, I promise.
Gold, your flip. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. My name's Gold, and I am the second person introducing themselves, and also the second in terms of person in our command structure in Reverie. See, I was trying to go somewhere with that. But
you know what? I will commend the try.
And I'm Palazard. I'm the lead translator for our live readings, as well as a sub manager for here in Reverie, and I'm the voice of Julius going forward.
Welcome, gentlemen, and welcome you, our audience, to the second episode of our podcast. You may have noticed that we have improved the visuals of the podcast. Before, we had a pretty funny meme image for our first episode, and now we've decided to use these cute little models of characters that we play in the readings. So I hope you guys enjoy the visual aid.
Yeah, I hope so.
So today,
I'm Roswell, and then Subaru,
I'm Julius.
and then
I'm
Julius.
Subaru. Oh, I can even make it look like I'm jumping up and down. That's actually really fun. So today, we're going to be talking about, just in general, like our expectations for the third season of the anime, like just speculation of when it will come out, like what we think is going to go on production side with it, stuff like that. But we're also just going to talk about anime production in general, and we're going to have a blast.
All right. Sounds like a good time.
Hell yeah. Let's get straight into it.
All right. Do you want to talk about it first?
Yeah, I guess I can.
Sure.
So, in general, with the third season of ReZero, like, it was announced. I think it was last year, right?
Yes.
Well, considering it's only...
Well, it wasn't in the last 3 weeks.
It was in the last 3 weeks, though. Wait. Oh my god, it's January. That is a revelation to me. We're just gonna ignore the fact I forgot it was January. So yeah, it was announced, I think, March last year. I think it was Anime Expo or whatever.
I'm double checking. Yeah.
Yeah. Fact check me on that to make sure I'm not spreading misinformation. We didn't actually get too much in ways of information, especially when the teaser trailer for the third season was released. We didn't even know the studio, the director, like any of the staff, like at all. But
yeah, it was strange. Sorry for interjecting, but it was strange. They completely sort of decided to go and just eschew any sort of reveals about the anime production instead of just saying, "Yep,
standard, right?"
No, not at all.
Usually, you go and if you have a trailer, especially, you start saying something about directors, something about whatever. But they kind of left us high and dry. It was one of those weird things, and it's happening more often than not nowadays, where an anime studio is revealing something but not giving like information. As long as the series is popular enough, they sometimes just say, "Yep, this series is getting an anime," and then leaving you high and dry for a while, which is weird because, you know, ReZero has had their own anime for a while, so more information about that was probably in first on people's mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was March, by the way. March of last year.
Yeah, my memory serves me well. Let's go. I think it's rather interesting that's a thing that started to happen with anime productions in general. We can only really speculate as to why that may be, but would there be a particular reason as to why they have started doing that?
Yeah, and it comes down to the publisher most of the time. Thing with is that Kadokawa is a huge distributor in terms of the properties they own in Japanese media. They would prefer that without, you know, production information being able to be disclosed, they prefer people to, for merchandise reasons, for reasons of, you know, kind of assuring the fan base, kind of publicizing it. They would prefer just releasing it because they know that it'll get made no matter what. They'll throw as much money as they need at it because if it's a big series, they'll just say, "Yep, it's getting done. It doesn't really matter how it's get done. It doesn't matter if we don't even have the staff to do it right now. It doesn't even matter. We'll hire people. We'll do whatever. We're just telling you that it's going to get done." That's the reason why. And we don't have to get into the marketing numbers, but like ReZero is obviously at least Studio White Fox's biggest, or even Kadokawa's biggest money maker. So like it's obvious why they would say it, especially for ReZero. Other times they've done this is big shonens. Things like One Punch Man, things like whatever.
Yes.
Gets
I remember that.
a saying that, oh, an anime is coming, and it's not revealing anything about who's making it. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like just marketing pretty much.
Yeah. There's a cynical part of me does also think that there's an element of like almost disorganization when it comes to that, where perhaps they want to be a bit more flexible with the staff they can potentially and the studio they may potentially assign to the anime in general in a more like perhaps we'll try to skim on resources, because at the end of the day the publishers are profit focused companies, as any company is, and we can't really expect them in terms of investment for passion of the series, right? In terms of the staff that work on a series, very much so you can expect that, but with the publisher, I guess I'd be a bit more cynical as to their reasons for doing that.
Yeah, that's totally correct. I can go into more about White Fox as a studio as well in their relationship with this, because as you're saying, the staff at White Fox, the talent that was there for a while working on Steins Gate, working on ReZero, they are pretty much known foremost for being a studio that is all about making sure that like the source material is respected. That's pretty much their founding principle.
That staff is gone too, right? From White Fox?
Yes. And it's interesting to talk about because sometimes it gets overblown when people start talking about stuff like this. You see one name leave for one studio, and then you assume that everybody who left for the same studio. It's not that simple. It gets kind of clustered up. People know most about Studio Bind, that the people who make Mushoku Tensei now.
Yes.
They know a lot about the fact that Studio Bind has a lot of ex-White Fox employees. There's also the fact that the director for ReZero now works on Isekai Oji-san, which is an Isekai uncle. It's like a new studio that came out and made this project. It's a smaller studio. Stuff like that. You see the fracturing of that, but what you don't see is the core staff kind of shifting around, new hires, people who work in like smaller roles, right? Less luxurious roles, like things like directors, things like whatever, kind of are pretty obvious when we're talking about a production. So when they leave, it's like, oh yeah, that's big, right?
That's a big tell as to what's going on. Yeah,
is the smaller employee turnover, which happens a lot in the anime industry. People don't talk about it all that often, but a lot of the times there's less studio loyalty nowadays than it was in the past. I think a lot of old people in anime studios kind of take it for granted that, they train people and then they expect them to stay there for 10, 20 years. There's sort of this loyalty idea, but the pay isn't that good. So, you kind of take what you get at this point.
What you could get to survive.
Yeah.
Especially at a salary position like that. It's even in the creative.
Well, it's not a salaried position. A lot of the studios pay you per frame that you draw.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
Yeah, a lot of freelance writers or animators get paid per frame, but the thing is, star freelance animators get paid more for frame. So it's like a weird like gig thing that they do.
Almost like a seniority system, right? Like, oh yeah, you're more experienced, so we'll pay you more per frame. And then,
well, they're also given the more important keyframes more often than not as well.
Right.
And so you'll get a situation with like Attack on Titan season 3 where practically 2 or 3 animators are given X amount of time to do a 30-second sequence, and the whole thing looks beautiful. And then the rest of the team is focused on the rest of the episode just to fill in the gaps.
Oh, okay. Is that becoming like a more common practice in general in the anime industry? Because I have heard like that being a pretty common thing, like even like outsourcing particular scenes.
Contracting effectively.
Yeah, contracting effectively to different animators, even across the world. Not just...
I mean, It's been fairly common since at least the mid 2000s, because I know Naruto did that a lot, and you can tell when they do it because it changes the whole animation.
The whole
like look to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing about that is that happens most often in a lot of new school sensational animes that get really popular, because what happens is a lot of the flashy sort of in Japan they call it sakuga, which is pretty much just animation. In Japan is what it means, but it's sort of like big, gutsy, sort of fluid and dynamic action. You see it, and they sort of hire certain people who are really good at it. There's a bunch of names you can throw out, and they are meant to sell the anime, where a lot of the anime production revolves around keeping on model or whatever. What they want is a very few select high quality moments that can sell the rest of the anime and make it like an advertisement, because they know that word of mouth on the internet is more important than overall quality sometimes. So like having like a concentrated staff isn't as important as having big dynamic moments in your episode. Think about Jujutsu Kaisen or whatever. They outsource so many people, freelancers, almost entire episodes made out of freelancers. The biggest episodes that season was entirely done by a different studio. Pretty much none of them ever work at MAPPA. It was the biggest episode of that season, and they do it all the time, and high turnover rate, and people want to prove themselves, and full creative freedom, and then it looks really nice because they've seen them work on other projects, and then they just kind of turn it along. It might not match the overall directorial vision of the anime, and that might not be what traditionally used to happen, but nowadays it's important to be able to clip your anime on the internet rather than having a solid structure for your anime, which has merits and demerits. I mean, sometimes it looks really well, looks really good. Other times it does not. We see, like, people probably say a lot about the quality of the ReZero anime to bring it back around.
Yes.
That it doesn't have any of those dynamic moments. Those like big sweeping, like, oh, I was hoping for like a big action scene here, or like
the big, really creatively animated scene, you'd say. Like they did creative stuff in the second season with like how they did perspective shots and stuff in certain episodes, which is really interesting. I actually really enjoyed that.
It's more like it doesn't have the high intensity, like very quick moving dynamic action maneuvers that you'll see super often in the more popular shonen. It'll have more static poses where they're doing impressive feats.
Yeah, so it's rather than more like dynamic movement, as you say.
To kind of piggyback on that, you kind of have to look at it and think, what are we focusing on for the overall quality of our show? Are we going to focus more on the directorial side of it, which ReZero does, and that's the main quality aspect of it. I mean, the thing is, nobody ever talks about the ReZero anime, or a lot of animes, in fact, about its quality in regards to just the quality of animation overall. They talk about it more in the interesting, camera choices, interesting art choices, interesting music choices, great voice acting.
If they mention anything, it's usually like a quality drop, especially around the time that COVID hit.
Yeah.
But more significantly from season 1 to season 2.
It really is just how they kind of are structured as a studio, White Fox. They don't really outsource their animation at all. As far as I know, they still don't. Except for a few times. There's a few times they did it. A lot of the good action scenes in ReZero Season 1, the one with Elsa and Reinhardt fighting, was outsourced. The one with Julius and Beetlejuice fighting was outsourced.
Mm-hmm.
The great episode with Beetlejuice in the cave was all done by up-and-coming White Fox staff members that were given an opportunity to direct an episode all by themselves.
That's so cool.
It was cool, and that's the reason why it was so dynamic, and they were putting a lot of effort into it, because it was their kind of chance to prove themselves.
I guess that almost shows the strength of their creative vision for the work, eh? Like,
right.
Even though the animation may not be as flashy as some other very popular shows, it's carried on the vision everyone creatively has for the show, and the strength that the team has together as they work on it shows through.
That is a distinct part of it. ReZero also has it's both a downside and an upside of that it's coming from a light novel as source material.
Yeah.
So So all of the visuals, aside from a few frames that they just straight up copy from the light novel's illustrations, like the Choose Me moment, for example, is a 1-to-1 picture. A lot of it ends up or a lot of other anime can just follow the manga for a lot of the more important keyframes and then fill in the gaps between them for a logical scene. Like a lot of the directions kind of already been done, so they have to focus less time on planning out the scene and storyboarding all of it rather than only needing to storyboard between the points that the mangaka had already put out.
I guess that may be potentially the reason why there's a lot less original anime nowadays, eh? That kind of
I mean, that's a huge part of it. But that's honestly because it's harder to get that purchased rather than it's harder to make it.
Yeah.
Without a proven track record of my stuff is either incredibly popular online for free or is a very successful manga that's been selling for months or years already, they're not going to want to make it. And you don't need a ton of success, obviously. Like a lot of the light novel isekais are not the most popular things in the world.
Yeah, we could say that at least. But I think it's that kind of attitude of like in the world of business, very much focused on, okay, this works, we'll use this. That not much risk taking, eh? Or creative, like just out there stuff.
Yeah, a lot of the times. And, as you said, like because it's a light novel, the reason why White Fox is known for being so reliable and so careful with source material is because both Steins Gate and ReZero don't have like a storyboard. You'd look at source material for ReZero, the anime, and you see the quality of storyboards. You see how difficult it is to draw these character designs, right, so consistently. You understand how it's difficult to frame in like everybody else's head, a vision for the story that's visual, and that's the reason why people are kind of nervous with the new season, because the director that we had, he was great. I think a lot of people kind of give him some downgrades for the overall quality of animation, as we were talking about before. But one thing that was kind of hard for people to deny is the fact that he understood the creative vision of ReZero very well, and he was very dedicated to it.
Yeah,
right.
You can very much say, especially with the way he handled the direction of the series, like there is a lot of passion and love and attention to detail, which I think that some anime don't get as much attention towards.
No, 100%. Because of that, I guess we'll talk about Ben and then or where the show's been and then where it's heading right now.
Like where is it going in the future?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So initially, the ReZero anime came out around 2016, right?
Yes.
Yeah, 2016.
2016.
Yeah. It was propagated mostly, or not even mostly, a lot of the times by, its sales as a book in Japan, right? A lot of it kind of had to do with, there was a delay. I wouldn't say there was a delay, but there was a lot of things in between season 1, season 2 that they kind of took for granted, right?
Yeah.
We kind of talked overall about the quality of the series and its strengths and its weaknesses. Something interesting, 2020, when did 21 was when season 2 came out?
It premiered 2020. I believe it finished 2021.
Yeah. And the 4-year break is really rough usually. It's kind of curious because White Fox kind of did the thing that a lot of studios do, and I think Kadokawa wanted them to try to be a huge studio because the success of Steins Gate, the success of ReZero, they were like, okay, get more isekai animes out the door, right? It doesn't matter if you're kind of struggling to keep up with it. It doesn't matter if you have the managerial skills to do it. We're giving you more isekai anime, make them hits again. You know what I mean? And that's kind of
that's a scary pressure to have on you, especially because White Fox isn't like this big, huge production studio, right? Like as you say.
No, it's not.
It's not. And it's smaller than it was at the time, or at least it got a lot smaller. I don't know how their ranks have re-upped their size or if they've filled their ranks back up.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. And an interesting thing about that is it's like they kind of mismanaged it for a while and knew that they had to get to ReZero eventually. The OVAs in between definitely helped a little bit.
Yes, they helped alleviate some of the desire for more ReZero content that I'm sure was bearing down a lot on them.
Not to mention the director's cut.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's a lot of weird pressure. I mean, you can see how much a director cared about the series when there's a director's cut for the series.
Yeah,
that's almost unheard of for anime. Yeah. That's almost unheard of, right? But yeah, there's sort of like this overdue pressure on the series at that time where it was just like, okay, we're selling a bunch of merch, but people don't even know half about the series, like how much can you rely about it on goodwill alone, like good memories about the series, eventually gonna have to give people more. So they did.
It's not entirely accurate to what the gap between 1 and 2 was, because obviously, this is a pretty well-known thing that they passed up the light novels before they finished airing the series.
Yes.
Like they had to get it directly from Tappei as well as the web novel, like what happens in that final episode. Yeah. But season 1 was also like produced and purchased as an individual season, not necessarily with any sequels planned.
The production was completely in mind of just that first season, right?
Yeah, season 2 is like it stayed popular enough, so they decided to go back and do it after enough time had passed. They had all of it kept up, or at least this is what has come out of Japan from people who are a little bit more in the know than all of us who are dealing with third-hand sources.
Yeah. And, like that type of thing is actually more difficult than you think it is now that I think about it, because you have to realize that there was a weird period of time. It was, it still happens sort of, but it happens less often nowadays. Around that time, 4 years ago, where like production committees were being really weird with the licenses they gave up for anime, like re-upping seasons, being like, okay, let's get the second season, let's get the third season. Like, for example, like Wit not taking on Attack on Titan for like 4 years after the first season came out for some reason. Like,
that was the mangaka's request, actually.
Oh, was it? Okay. So maybe it's more catching up with the source material then.
Yeah, because the current way that they do anime, I know both of you are a little bit younger than me, so you weren't really around during this period, especially because you weren't watching anime as much at that time. But if you go back and watch like original Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, One Piece, any of the ones who are primarily coming out the 90s, 2000s in America, and earlier than that in Japan, like they caught up with their source material constantly. And so I had to go on long filler arcs because they were a weekly series.
Yes.
And they just don't make anime like that anymore.
There is no big filler arcs anymore, right? Well,
because people don't understand what filler means a lot of the time. Yeah. It's not like a downtime episode or something that just feels like it's there to fill time. It's there to fill time in real life, not to fill time in the series.
So the creator can actually like pump out more content from their own hands.
Like an example, Dragon Ball Z, they catch up to where the show is at before like the main Android saga starts, and they're weeks ahead of where they need to be. So they pump out an entire original arc based on a non-canon movie just to put it out. And they just nowadays make anime in much smaller seasonal batches. Right. Where they don't have to constantly be worried about getting canceled and renewed. It's just, can they make this season? And then they make as many episodes as that season was purchased to produce.
Which honestly makes a lot more sense in terms of just less stress for the production and also monetarily, right? Because you're not potentially wasting resources.
To an extent, yeah. But if it's something is coming out yearly, then it falls out of the cultural mindset. For example, like ReZero and Attack on Titan is gone for 4 years. Or in our case, 4 years multiple times.
Yes.
Then that's just gonna happen. And people are gonna forget about the show, and it's not gonna be as relevant unless it's good enough to have dedicated community about it.
And that happened with Full Metal Alchemist as well at the time. That series. That's the reason why there's even a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yeah, they ran out of source material
and they made an anime original ending.
Original, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of anime at the time were pretty much slotted into production. Schedules on like a TV show, like a TV series, time slot. Mm-hmm. And that means that they were kind of forced to fulfill no matter how much, was happening. They were like, okay, get more out.
Yeah, pump more out, gents.
All right, we'll just use the last 10 minutes of the last episode as a recap at the beginning of this one, and then only use 5 minutes of new content.
Biggest pet peeve when watching some anime is that for me.
So, like, we have that as like a big push reason between season 1 and 2. And season 1, obviously, we can even talk about the fact that because it was cut to one season and expected to only be that they cut out anything that would have confused the plot relevancy or the overall plot of it as an individual season. Right. Like, there's the 2 most well-known moments cut out from season 1.
Yes.
You're correct, yeah.
which one of them might be a spoiler for season 3, so we'll leave that one out.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. That being cut out of season 1 was pretty noticeable, I think, for most people at the time, especially. I remember looking at threads and being like, "Oh, they're not ready for what's going to come at the end of the season," and then like if it didn't happen, people were like, I mean, I guess we'll wait, and people have to not know.
Well, that was like from the you're talking about like what was added on to the end of the director's cut.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay, I was meaning the points of.
You mean the
before the capital, or
yes.
before Subaru introduces himself on the carriage ride.
Yes.
And right immediately after the whale fight.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah.
That those two would have led to more confusion for what season 1 needed to be in and of itself.
Especially with
and thus were cut from the series.
Yeah, especially with them considering, this there's a decent chance that we don't get to make a second season or even continue this in general. So we'll try and make it focus on making one cohesive season rather than hinting towards future events.
And like one of them, they kind of went back on a little bit in season 2, but the English subtitles did not catch that they were doing that.
Yes.
And so there's a little bit of loss there, but I'll get into the some of the translation issues that come with this series specifically when we get to at that point in the podcast, I guess.
And then moving on to season 2, right? Of course, COVID happened. Needless to say, that was probably the biggest issue with the production at that point.
Yeah, it affected production very heavily, right?
Enough to push the second half of the second core back an entire like real life season.
Yeah.
I actually want to. That reminds me, this is a point that people listening should probably make sure they understand as well. Especially in America, we have like a season of a show typically takes place over one actual like Earth season, right? Like it comes out over the summer or over the spring. Like that's whatever season of the series. But that's what for anime specifically would be called the core, like the first or second core of a season. But the season itself is the batch of episodes purchased and licensed and produced together. It's why Attack on Titan, the final season, is 3 seasons.
Yeah.
That's all one production that they were licensed and allowed to make together. But it obviously came out over multiple seasons.
In real world time, there was like a gap between those parts of production.
Mm-hmm. So when they say like season 3 and like people might be worried about like what all is going to be in it, we have no idea how much that's actually going to cover.
And I think I can very much say I know there's a lot of doubt within the ReZero community about White Fox as a studio in general, which I think is unfair to the studio.
A lot of it's unfair.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah,
because genuinely there was actual production issues with the second season due to like COVID. I know like for a lot of anime, some studios will use that as kind of like an excuse, and that's not actually fully what happened. But like for ReZero season 2, production was very heavily halted because of the pandemic.
Yeah,
it was not something they could control at all.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were talking about before, I mean, White Fox is not a huge studio, right? Like it doesn't outsource either. So it's like, except for, of course, everybody outsources to like Korean studios for in-betweens, but that's besides the point.
Yes, that's a very common thing.
And like the idea is that like, at a certain point in time, you have only so many amount of people that can make these huge episodes. And the ReZero episodes were huge, not in maybe quality of animation, but like
there's a lot of details in
content in detail
too, because they bought out ad time, so length of episode is like actually a lot longer,
more than average. Yes. And also like the designs that they have to draw over and over consistently. I mean, you should be kind of grateful that there wasn't like too many. Like I know some people kind of meme about some faces Super makes or whatever.
Yes.
But like the reason because of that is like there's only so many people that can correct all that. It's like
right. And they did go back and correct it. Yes. We don't have necessarily access to that because it's not on the streaming services. But for all the Blu-ray releases, they went back and fixed a ton of the problems. And like you don't get that from every studio.
No.
Like they might change one or two things in one scene for a Blu-ray release, but it's not to the degree where they have like. I think I saw a Reddit post that showed the side by sides, and it was 64 like different scenes long of how many changes and edits that they did.
I've seen some of those as well, and I think it rather speaks specifically to White Fox's passion for ReZero in particular, which I think is something that a lot of us can admire, like how much the studio in general, like from the minor staff up to the like high creative staff, whenever they hire them for each project, are so passionate about the story. Because I mean, again, as we said with the director's cut, that's not a very common thing for anime at all, and the fact that was even a thing for ReZero, I think, shows the care and dedication White Fox has to it as a series.
Yeah, for certain. Like an OVA doesn't necessarily speak to that, but the full director's cut with updated animation and added scenes, like that's a huge endeavor to put out.
Yes.
Just to build excitement for the second season, which they were obviously interrupted with when COVID hit. Before they were necessarily, I think they were before they were even finished with like the key frames for season 2, the first core.
Yeah, I think it literally came at the worst possible time for the production of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
enough
really
to push it back 3 or 4 months for the release of the second half.
Because I think they even planned to release it on a significant birthday for a character, right? I think it was Amelia's birthday. They planned to release the first core. I could be completely wrong in saying that, but that's from what I remember.
I'm not positive. I think you're right. I remember reading something about that, but I can't say for certain.
So that's just me throwing that out there. We'll have to fact check that at some point. But
or leave a comment and tell us if we're wrong.
And tell us if we're idiots.
Yeah, make sure to correct us all the time. This entire episode, I want you all to comment every single time you think we're wrong with one of our opinions.
Yes,
I think it's best that way.
It's very constructive because we're not omnipotent gods. We don't know everything, and we can make mistakes.
But also, I think it's funny when people do that. So
I also
argue with us.
Funny. Yes, tell us off for being idiots.
Yeah, being wrong about White Fox at this point. But yeah, I think people kind of give too much crap about it because, as you said, like, I honestly think people are kind of thinking too short-sightedly about stuff like, okay, well, I hope White Fox gets recasted to like Mappa or something like that. People said that at one point, right?
Yes.
The thing is about that is, like, you don't realize the fact that, you know, for example, Attack on Titan season 3 or like final season, right? This is a
3
great
was
example.
The big one.
Yeah, great example. And it's owned by Mappa. The first part of that was definitely lacking in quality compared to the rest of the seasons, even the cores that they had for the final season, because they were getting their footing, and the animators that are working on it had to understand and get the passion for the series that the previous studio had. Like, even though Mappa, for example, is, you know, lauded as a great animated studio, they need to understand so much about the series, its tone, its thing. Like, a new director needs to understand that. The staff needs to understand how to colorize it. The staff needs to understand how to direct it, like, you know, storyboard it. You know, like, character designer needs to make sure to match all the designs properly. Like, there's so much work that goes into anime that people don't recognize, that they're like, okay, well, we give this to Ufotable, right? I honestly don't think Ufotable would. I mean, like, they might do a great, like, a pretty good job
when
because
it comes
of the fact
to, like,
they have such
big, like, important, like, say, flashy dynamic scenes, perhaps. Oh, that looks amazing.
Great effects, animation, great whatever, you know.
But when it comes to, like, the actual heart and soul of a show, I don't know if I could say any other studio could handle ReZero with as much respect and care as it deserves.
Because I honestly don't think they would have had an extended episode length. I don't think they would have had insert songs in between scenes. I don't think they would have had, you know, like, the way that they kind of mix music or, like, not use music, or even, you know, some of the effects or some of the sound
production
effects
in general, which is fantastic for ReZero in particular.
Oh, absolutely. Like, you can't speak bad about that. Like, there's still moments in the show where, as many times as you watch it, you have the headphones on and you get chills listening to it.
Oh my God,
whispered into your ear.
The audio mixing, especially for that
100%.
episode in season 2, with the Witch of Envy, phenomenal episode.
I also think a lot of the sound effects are just so good. Like, the magic sound effects, the sound effects for, like, you know, you know, like, everyone means that, but, like, there's, like, a lot of, like, amazing decisions.
I think it shows to the quality of and care of the staff in general when every part of the machine that is creating this work of art is putting in their best and doing something really special. Because
I don't think
even the soundtrack and the OST, the gentleman that composes the music for the series, his music is gorgeous. I listen to it all the time. That man is phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. And as I was saying, like the music's great, and also like it's like a puzzle, right? And you can see every single piece, and you know that like no matter how much you like the final puzzle that's made, you can't deny that they're like all coming together and every single puzzle piece is there. You know, I think that's my overall sentiment about White Fox as a studio, is that they are definitely executing on their vision, and they're definitely executing the best they can to represent ReZero. I think that's my overall opinion about White Fox so far.
Yeah.
The composer is Suehiro Kenichiro, by the way.
That's his name. Thank you.
Yes.
So I think in terms of that, we can perhaps segue into talking about all the everyone's like a lot of people in the ReZero's community like speculation about whether there's going to be a new studio for season 3 or should there be a joint studio production.
Well, I have information about that, but yeah,
a lot of speculation about that. I guess we can discuss that a little bit ourselves too.
I wouldn't be shocked if there is a new studio for it, specifically because like the whole thing with Studio Bind is that a lot of the animators and directors, I don't know the directors specifically, but at least a lot of the animators who were working on ReZero and were as passionate about it formed Studio Bind specifically to make Mushoku Tensei because they were so impassioned by that project as well.
Yes.
So I don't know if it's the same people who would be as intensively wanting to make the next season or not.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like from my own personal speculation, I could see a potential maybe joint production with White Fox and perhaps maybe Studio Bind for the animators that are as passionate as they are for the series. But when it comes to White Fox in general, I do actually think they will be handling production of season 3, specifically because I don't know if you guys have seen, but they've gotten a new studio recently, like a fully new upgraded studio.
Like a studio space, right?
Yeah, like completely. They even have little break dogs. Like you go on a break and there's a dog to help relieve your stress. It's really cute.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's actually like fantastic, their new studio. I think if there was such a big upgrade to their studio, there has to be a reasoning behind why they did that, right? And ReZero, at the end of the day, is a huge project, a very famous project. And lots of interest in it, and it's a cash cow for Kadokawa as well. So I think with that coincided, there's a pretty decent chance White Fox will be handling season 3.
Yeah,
well, its profitability for Kadokawa, I don't think is able to be spoken to the studio that will make 3, because they're gonna. I mean, their majority profits come from merchandise rather than the series. So that's going to happen no matter who's producing.
Right.
Yeah.
I have some information about the studio making ReZero season 3 and also how long it's going to be, stuff like that. If you want to go over that.
Oh, I'd love to hear. Yes, please.
People were assuming that it was going to be joint, like a two-person team, like 2 studios working together. Mm-hmm. It's just White Fox, as far as I know.
Okay.
All White Fox. Something that's pretty much confirmed at this point. I know the new director, even though it's not announced, or I've done enough research into leakers and I've pretty much gathered this has to be the case at this point. So I know the new director. I also know how long it's going to be, which is a very interesting point that we can talk about.
Oh,
well, we can discuss it and still have the caveat that until
it's not.
What is it, March 24th that we're getting new information that we can't confirm anything one way or the other.
This is
but it's like
speculation.
confirmed.
This is speculation with like intent and us.
Yeah, it's
doing
speculation with some intent. Yeah, so people assume that the season 3 of ReZero is going to be 3 core, which means 39 episodes. And the reason why that's the case is because it seems to be White Fox's new model for anime. It's confirmed that the newest anime that they release is also going to be 3 core.
Interesting.
Which this information happened way before that was even known. So the leakers that have kind of leaked this before seem to know this is the case. It also coincides with the visuals that we've gotten. And it also is just it coincides with a lot of things that's going on with their expansion, as well as them hiring on a bunch of new people recently.
Yes.
They've been in pre-production for ReZero since 2022, I think. Pre-production for a year.
Oh wow.
Which is longer.
I think the composer, Kenichiro, actually may have accidentally leaked that at one point and had to backtrack on what he was talking about.
I remember this as well because I'm pretty sure he has a Twitter account and he himself actually announced, "Oh, I'm working on a project that I've worked before on previously and love again."
Well, that specifically was to a different series that he was working on, but there's been some other points that at least that have come through other sources that I've read and looked at that says that he was being contacted by them again, and this would have been the correct timing for that. This would have been 2022-ish?
Yes, about
era, I think. So, I mean, that's I feel like that's pretty solid, but that would just make sense.
Yeah.
Right. One thing is that it's a year of pre-production is pretty much what people are saying, as well as the fact that they started production around 2023 start of it, I think. Now, I don't really know if that for 100%. I don't even know how people could figure that out 100%. But I know that they've been working on it for a while, which is why people are kind of safe to say that it's 39 episodes. Because usually pre-production on anime is definitely not a year long. That's usually like a Western style length of pre-production time.
Pre-production, yeah.
Yeah, because that means that you need to work so much on, scenario, on storyboards, on setting, on background art, all this stuff, and managerial stuff, music, sourcing, all this stuff, that you'd have to plan for that long. And anime usually works in a weird way where they work concurrently with anime being released. As soon as the anime starts being released, they're working on the later half of the season, right?
Yes.
This means that if you're working on it for a year beforehand as well, it means that it's going to be a longer thing. So at least 24 episodes, obviously, or 26. But then on top of that, it's very rare for people with 3 core anime productions, exceptionally rare.
Yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head that.
Yeah, one of the ones that do it is JoJo. JoJo does it all the time.
Yes, okay.
Well, Attack on Titan season 4 was 3 cores. It's just that the last core was split up into 2 specials.
Yeah, it was split very hard. It's very split. But yeah, the JoJo did a bunch, and it's weird to think about because I don't know, because that means there's going to be a year straight of ReZero episodes coming up, pretty much.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, with Mushoku Tensei's 2 cores, and they have a 3. A 9-month split between first and second core of this season. So it's not necessarily a year straight. It's just that they have 3 anime seasons worth of content that they will be putting out.
Yeah.
True. And it's interesting to think about because that's a new model for White Fox, pretty much. I don't think they've done it that way, right? 24, I forget, season 2, did they take a long break in between 12 episodes?
But that was a huge chunk because of COVID. They extended the break as a result of that.
Yeah, it was about a 3-month break, I believe, in between each.
It was supposed to be 3 months. I think it turned to 6, but I'm not positive. I'll have to double check that.
It was a pretty extended length of time.
It's been so long because that break felt like it was no time at all because we're doing Reverie, so I forgot.
Yeah, we had Reverie to kind of fill that gap for us.
Yeah, so it wasn't that big of a deal. The production on it is very interesting, I think. I'm quick to believe that this is the case because there's always weird things that they do with ReZero production-wise, right? And as well as the fact that they seem to be very adamant about it, very adamant about getting this, with the leaked production material or the poster, I should say, all stuff, they seem to want to get a lot of ReZero out.
Well, the poster that they released was also for the celebration event and was exclusively using light novel imagery, not the anime imagery, which had the official, whatever, it's something art, it's not the cover art, but the
Kia,
the one of them standing on the lake of the river.
Yes.
Right, that one's different. Yeah, that one's for
that's what's officially released regarding season 3. which doesn't really tell us anything. We know exactly that's the bare minimum. But the other image that they released there was
I
like all ripped from the covers of the light novels and like mosaiced together.
I do think it's kind of saying, though, that they would put that in an anime production committee. In retrospect, I mean, because at the time I was like, well, I agree with you, right? Like, if this was me without all these different leaks, I'd be like, that's exactly where their head was exactly at, right? They were like, we're just going to release it. But I assume that they were just like, the people that were doing pre-production for that long were celebrating all the plans that they've made up to this point. Was my idea.
I guess considering... with what you've been saying about the potential of 1 year of prep time and 3 cores, considering adaptation length for the next arcs of the story for ReZero that would be adapting into anime, it would make sense for it to be the content that people have been speculating it would be.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a spoiler to say the speculation is Arc 3 or Arc 5 and Arc 6 in Season 3. And I personally... I think 3 cores is like precisely the right amount of time to tell both arcs together.
Right, and I think it makes sense as a business perspective as well for reasons that I'm not going to get into. But I think it makes total sense for a lot of reasons in terms of...
I mean, it makes total sense. Like it would probably be like episode 15. It would be a huge thing for everyone, and then they get through all of the series and it driving exactly what people are wanting it to drive to.
And if I'm like, if my speculation is correct, and like in terms of that adaptation for Arc 5 and Arc 6, I think they're going to be having a pretty big hype around the series, and they're going to be putting all their eggs into the basket of ReZero, as it said, especially Kadokawa. I think from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, I agree 100% because I know, the drivers of sales. But besides that, even it makes sense because I think they'd not want to be up to, I don't know, 2027 or whatever and be like, okay, we're done with Arc 6, even though the source material is so much farther ahead now than when we first started the anime. I think
honestly, from a production perspective, especially if they're intending to possibly, I don't know if this ever will happen, you can never guarantee, but another season after the season that comes, it would make a lot of sense to catch up to as much source material as you could within the, say, 3 cores they were given.
Well, to be kind of counter to that then, like...
Oh, okay.
Arc 4 ends at a good stopping point, and Arc 3 ended at a good stopping point because they stopped before the interludes and before the cliffhanger. And they intentionally stopped before the cliffhangers in both Season 1 and Season 2 because it was like, these are the only productions that they're going to do.
Yeah.
But the point with, if they were only doing Arc 5, they could do the same thing and stop before like the push of what Arc 6 starts with.
Yeah.
But you can't do that with Arc 6. It ends the way it ends, and there's no like satisfying point there.
Yeah.
Like you have to either end it on something unsatisfying or end it on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I think there's just as much chance that they do a Season 1 of ReZero where they just say, here's a happy moment, we're ending in here, it doesn't really matter, we're going to try to edit around sort of what's going to happen at the end.
I guess with the kind of like realistic attitude of maybe we don't get another anime production, so let's end it at what would be either a cliffhanger so it's interesting, or a thematically happy moment so it's like got an almost conclusive feeling, right? I
just don't think they would be able to do it. I don't think that Arc 6 lends itself without drastic changes.
It doesn't, but I think it really just depends on how they editorialize it. Really, like there's ways you can structure or rewrite certain scenes or rewrite certain like parts at the end of that arc where it makes it seem like you're at a downturn. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's going to, especially because as we've seen so far from like page to screen in terms of the first season and the second season and how different the pacing may feel in certain aspects because of that transformation, I think it's going to be rather interesting to see how that is handled with, at least for certain, Arc 5's content.
I think Arc 5 is going to be the easiest and most one-to-one gone from
I think
text to screen possible.
Personally, I think Arc 5 is the best arc to animate for ReZero in terms of like it from experience from book to screen. I think the screen experience would be the most interesting for Arc.
It'll make it phenomenally better. And there's a very good chance that while a lot of the like novel reading community like still holds 6 as like the pinnacle of the series, although there's still a big bunch of people who vote 4. Yeah, I think that just from being animated, Arc 5 might take that.
Yeah, and I would honestly not disagree with that in any way. I think
no, not at all.
Much the way that will go, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think people underappreciate Arc 5 a lot when they're talking about it.
I would say Arc 5 is the most underappreciated arc.
I mean, maybe we've just been stuck in purgatory with it for a while, but
with our own personal production woes for our adaptation of Arc 5. But genuinely speaking, it is a beautiful story, and I think it will transfer extremely well to the screen. If you're an anime only watching this podcast, I think you should just be excited. You're going to have lots of fun.
I'll just say, yes. Look at the trailer. Those are a lot of characters.
That trailer was phenomenal, by the way. That teaser for the 3rd season, like the themes, the tone, the music.
Oh, absolutely.
So good. The transitions in between each like cut of the scenes.
I think it gives I mean, it's what, 40 seconds long, and I still think it gives away too much.
It gives away too much, in my opinion. Yeah.
But I mean, only if you stop.
But it's kind of like a lot of anime openings, or like even almost JoJo openings is the best example I can think of this personally, where like out of like when you have the context, you're like, oh my god, these are so many spoilers.
I mean, I don't think it's impossible that our teaser for that is not just a cut from the OP, because if you remove the sound effects from it and just imagine a song playing as you go through it, it totally can work as an OP, or at least part of it.
Honestly, that would be really cool if they implemented.
That'd be smart for them to reuse that animation there.
I was so impressed by that teaser trailer, to the point of where, even though you can always have your cynical worries about what could go wrong with a production, I have a lot of faith in White Fox to deliver.
Yes,
that's true.
I think that just on that teaser alone, whether that is like the improved OP animation or if that is an indicator of what it's going to look like in the season, in either case, it looks great, and I'm excited to see how season 5
was so much,
or season 3.
I could feel the passion that the creation of that teaser, like to the degree of like attention to detail, like so many small details that a lot of people wouldn't notice from like a first watch. Like that was a teaser where you'd watch 5 times to notice more details, right? Which is really fucking cool. And I was very pleased with that, and I'm excited to see how they handle the arc in general from an anime adaptation standpoint. I think it's a genius move with the tone and direction they're taking.
So assuming 39 episodes then, which is honestly that's what you said, or is it 3 cores that you were told, or 39 episodes?
3 cores, 39 episodes, because I mean 13 episodes is what they've done so far, so it's like 13 episodes per core is what they usually do. So
yeah,
well, the average core is 12.
Yeah, but that's ReZero does 13. Right.
Well, they've done mixed. Like season 2 was 25, so one was 12, one was 13. Right, yeah. But so the second half was honestly 15 episodes worth of content.
There may be like a 1 or 2 number difference.
Yes, but it's around that.
I honestly would say that is the perfect amount to adapt both Arc 5 and Arc 6. I would be very pleased with that number of episodes.
It's a little odd, though. I assume that some of those extras are going to have to be put on to the first core, because I think it doesn't take 2 cores to tell Arc 5 at all.
No.
My guess would be 14 episodes would be enough.
Yeah. I would
which would be a weird place to cut it. Like if that's the season break is right before the climax of Arc 5.
There is also the possibility they do the similar thing that they did with season 2, where they extend the episode time as much as possible for 12 episodes. Or 13 episodes. That is something I could see happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of stuff to adapt at that point, which are a lot of content. And they could we're doing every single piece of dialogue in the script, of course. And then they're like, okay, well, we're doing that. And then, I mean, it might actually, you might be right. It might only take like half a core and like a few episodes to get it done. But like, that's the assumption people had because they were kind of nervous that it was only 24 episodes, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things is just like, I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to do interludes? Are they going to do the first interludes between Arc 4 and Arc 5? Are they going to do all this stuff? Like, there's a lot of questions in the air about it, you know? And
I think they could,
Yeah.
but it doesn't feel like they have to. With 3 cores, you have Arc 5 in just over 1.
Yeah.
And you have enough time to hit all of the kind of things that they needed to cut in season 2 for Arc 6 and not have it be as much missing context.
There is also the possibility they could do a 1 hour first episode special.
They could, but for the 2 big shows that did that recently, in the way that like Demon Slayer still handles that, is they reduced the core to account for that.
Yeah, it counts as 1 and 2 episodes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like Free Ren was 4 episodes, and they even still call it episode 1 through 4.
Yeah.
But Demon Slayer had 1 fewer episode than a normal core would, and Oshinoko had 1 fewer as well than what was
normal,
which still put them over a core's length. But not by that much.
I just want to kind of put this out there in the air, just float it around, see how people think about it. I honestly don't think there's going to be hugely improved or hugely spectacular action animation for Arc 5. That's just my assumption. I think they're going to focus more on getting the episodes down, right? I think they're going to try to paint by numbers. There might be some spectacular scenes. Maybe they hire a few freelance animation, do a few scenes here or there, but I don't think it's going to be, bombastic in the way that I've been talking about before.
I
think you only need 2.
Yeah. If I'm being honest, I think there is a decent chance it could go the other direction, though, specifically because Arc 5, with the tone it goes for, which is very different from the rest of the series, I think there is a decent possibility they may put a bit more production effort into that aspect of the show.
Sure.
I personally agree with what you're saying, Gold. I think that's where they could go with it, but playing devil's advocate, I do think there's a decent chance they could increase production values in that sense, perhaps by using a little less resources on the in-between less heavy tense moments in the story.
Yeah, and the thing about that is, though, animators are pretty much directors in their own right in a lot of cases, especially action animators, right? In which you need to have a talented action animator do it. Like, it's not just like something where you can put more attention in it.
Yeah.
You need somebody to be able to understand how to frame,
specifically do the job. Yeah.
Frame, how to do kinetic movement properly, how to, do all
that could be a reason for the pre-production time, though.
Yes, that is true.
Because Arc 6 is not hard to animate outside of a handful of chapters towards the beginning and a handful towards the end.
Yeah. I guess, with that year of production time, and especially, and as you said, with new hires at White Fox and the new studio taken into account, there is a decent possibility there may be higher production values this time around.
And honestly, if it maintains Garth versus Elsa and Rom versus Roswell of season 2, I'm satisfied. I'm set. I'm
expecting that.
Yeah.
I'm expecting that.
I think that the big fight, the biggest fight of the season, is still probably going to look. I'm hoping it's more like Julius versus Betelgeuse.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be disappointed if it's not, because it's a relatively simple thing.
Yeah. And I think this is one thing. My major message for this episode for the audience watching is optimism when it comes to the production of the show, because I know there's a lot of skepticism and cynicism, and that's rightfully so. Critique always say, things could always be better. You can make decent and fair critiques about season 2's production, but that does not take away from the fact that you can also be optimistic about what is going to happen with season 3 and how that adaptation takes place. I think if you lose sight of your excitement and hype and hope for something too much, it can kind of spoil the fun. So let yourselves get excited. If something disappointing happens, that is a shame. But be excited. Just get hyped. This is ReZero Season 3.
Yes.
A show that I assume, especially if you're watching this podcast, you fucking love. Get excited for it. You deserve to enjoy it.
And if you go in feeling optimistic about it, you're just going to enjoy it more.
Exactly.
If you're expecting it to be disappointing, you're going to be disappointed more.
Yeah.
There's going to be good parts of it, no matter how much you might pick on a few things, right? There's going to be parts of the production that you're going to dislike. I'm going to point that out right now. It's always going to happen. You're going to be like, somebody's going to point something on Twitter, and you're going to be like, oh, you're right, that did look kind of weird, or that could have been a bit better.
For example, ReZero is my favorite anime of all time. I can very openly point out there were particular points in production where I'm like, okay, maybe they could have done this a bit differently. That doesn't change the fact that I can be optimistic and enjoy it, right?
Yes. Like, I have my complaints about especially the subtitles on the anime.
Yes.
And then the dub needing to take it from it. Like, it completely changes Roswell's last words in season 2. Like, to a drastic degree.
I think that's an entirely different discussion that we'd probably be able to qualify to have, actually, at some other point.
In fact, honestly, that's
another good episode.
Another episode we could completely dedicate.
Just go through mistranslations, cut content.
We could talk about that for at least 2 hours, I think.
And also dubs in general.
Yeah.
Yes.
That actually dub production in general, especially for ReZero, because ReZero's case of dub production is actually really interesting.
It is, yeah.
So
I didn't know.
We can talk about that in general for another episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I honestly had a question ready, and I think I've just completely lost it. Give me like a couple minutes, and I'll get back to it.
We'll think about that. But yeah, I think the next time we're going to be talking about the anime is going to be in March, I think, right?
Yes.
Yes, March 24th is the next con that we'll be having a stream for.
And join us on our live stream as we go over that.
We always do a live stream for these events for ReZero.
Yes. And
it's already set to premiere.
Yes.
So if you just go to our page and scroll down a little bit,
and you'll be able to get notified when it's
available. Yeah.
There's
also just a notify me about this one event button that's super handy on the premiere.
I didn't even know that existed.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
You should go and do it right now if you're on YouTube.
Go smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, spam comments for that sweet engagement.
Make sure to
dislike if you dislike the episode. That's engagement too.
Make sure to get a membership so you can listen to the Liliana chapters early.
Yeah, my crisp Wolfiana content for you.
Although we have a date of full release now, don't we?
Yes, we do. I believe it's the 9th of February. I could be incorrect with that. I will talk with
I can pull that up pretty quick.
But I'm almost...
I remembered the question I did have for you both, though, is if you think the... like how when season 2 came out, they went back and put in the cliffhanger from season 1 to the director's cut. Since they're not doing a director's cut for season 2, as far as we know, if they would have the cliffhanger they cut out there put in some way.
Oh,
during the beginning of season 3.
Okay, so this is actually thank you, Con. That's a really interesting question. I have a decent suspicion, especially of the way the interlude content works between Arc 4 and Arc 5, that we will get a more relaxed 1 or 2 episodes that cover that content, and also that cliffhanger you were talking about. I very much think we'll get that adapted. Yes.
Yeah,
in fact, I would be almost certain. Like, from a storytelling standpoint, it would make very little sense to me if they did not include that.
If there's a director's cut, then yeah, I think so, 100%. If there isn't, then it becomes less likely, just because of the way that you have to structure it.
That's fair.
People, I think it's kind of weird too, because people would be like, "Okay, this is what you're opening the season with. Do I even remember what actually exactly happened?"
Yeah.
Yeah. With that entire plot, it's like
there is also the possibility that you could even just do a recap episode, which is a thing that some anime do, where they're, instead of having like the director's cut like season 1 had for the rehype of the show, they may just have an episode dedicated to recapping the events of season 2, and then include that cliffhanger scene that was not adapted, perhaps as like a little Easter egg at the end.
So I'm more in line with other Connor with Gold here. That I doubt it would be, because it's not tied to the plot of Arc 5 at all.
Yeah.
And with the interludes, like, yeah, they skipped over a lot of them, and some of them are fairly important or would just be fun scenes to add in. But we did have the last one, didn't we? Because Dancing Under the Moonlight is the last of those Arc 4 interludes.
Yeah, you are right. Okay. In fairness, yeah, that's a good point. I guess,
like, the reunion between Garth and Frederica, we have seen already has happened.
Yeah, but we've not seen the contents around that from the novels.
Correct.
I guess it really depends on how their attitude to adaptation will go, because as we talked about for season 1, there was some cut content that will be relevant in the future and there is more than likely that they will find a way to add that back in. So.
Right. I mean, one of those 2 pieces of cut content is super easy to slide in, and Arc 5 gives a brilliant point where that's where I first learned about it and had to go back and realize that there was cut content. The other one, I mean, they pretended like they didn't cut it in season 2, but then the subtitles didn't realize that that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
So I don't think that specific cliffhanger would be there. If any of you at home want to find out, you can check out the ReZero subreddit. Make sure you don't look at any of the posts.
Yes,
but
please.
Just check the sidebar. They have a whole thing on cut content and everything else in the middle. Some of that stuff might be pretty important.
And if you're interested, if you're interested in seeing some of the content of the web novel for Arc 5, the anime will be adapting from the light novel instead, so there will be differences. If you'd be interested, we do readings of Arc 5, which would be content that Season 3 would cover.
And the next one of those is coming out February 9th.
Yeah, so
is our fairly hard plan.
Yes. So look forward to that.
Yes.
And yeah, you're more than welcome to start that content. But also, if you aren't interested in the audio form, I won't be so arrogant as to assume that everyone would be interested in listening to our readings. The ReZero Reddit does have an amazing resource to tell you where you can read content for the web novel, if you cannot wait at all for the end.
Mm-hmm. I think that's probably a good spot that we could end, though I think it might be worth it to spend a couple minutes in spoiler territory.
Oh, okay.
If we wanted to do that here.
Yes, I would agree. I think that would be some nice content for perhaps people that already know the events of what's going to happen. It would be interesting for some speculation. So
we might do some episodes talking about spoilers in general at some point as well.
There'll definitely be spoiler-filled episodes. I just mean that
right.
For production purpose and in prep for season 3, just at the end of this one, because we still have a few minutes that we can keep going.
Just kind of talking about how adaptation will go in terms of story beats. So
yes.
In general, if you're an anime only and you're watching this podcast now, please click away. I would never want to spoil you on some of the amazing stuff you will see in the anime eventually.
And we'll be wrapping up soon anyway, so
you won't be missing much.
To you guys.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. And I will actually double check and ask the editor to mark that as a book
timestamp it,
in the YouTube video itself, so you're even double aware about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we will see you next time, anime onlys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Are they gone?
I think they're gone.
Those losers are gone. Now we can talk.
Guys, now
no, not losers. They're more patient than we were.
Yeah, we're the losers.
We're actually the losers. Now that we think about it,
we couldn't wait. I couldn't wait 4 years. Okay, I couldn't.
I couldn't wait a month.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you know what? Honestly, I couldn't either. It was painful. I had to do it.
As soon as the anime is over, it's like, okay, we better do this.
Okay, so right. So the 2 Sakuga moments I think that we could expect, there's going to be Reinhardt versus Greed. I think that one's a pretty clear one where you only really need a few instances of it, and then you can just have the Dragon Ball flashes of the 2 contacts between them going at more than light speed to the moon and back.
That is a fucking... I think that's something...
I forgot about that.
People just don't have perspective. It is literally the fucking speed of light, or the speed of sound almost, right?
It's faster. The moon is it's light seconds away. There is a noticeable delay.
It's very funny because I think there was there's an opportunity to really show how strong Reinhardt is through the visuals that they haven't yet done. I mean, they sort of did it in season 1, they sort of did it in season 2 with the Killing Puck, but you can do a lot more flashy stuff with it, visually, more, you can see the Blessing of the Phoenix work, you can see all these different things, there's a lot of interesting things you can do to make it look awesome. I hope they really capitalize on that.
What was the
season
you speculated would be
Garfield versus the War God?
Yeah, because I was going to say that would be the other one where they would probably invest their most resources into making it look as flashy and impressive as possible. Right?
I think that's another really good fight that has a conclusion. That feels, Wilhelm versus what's her face?
Theresia.
I'm calling her what's her face. Yeah, Theresia.
That's another one I could consider a possibility as well.
Yeah, but I think that one has to be directed better. Like, I think that's just, getting the emotionality behind it right.
Well, that's gonna honestly, it's gonna be an entire episode dedicated to it.
It is gonna be.
I mean, they could just almost redo what they did in season 1's named chapter of just slice his backstory moments with her with the fight that he's doing now and have the beats match.
Things that I think is going to make the anime, like the screen adaptation of Arc 5 superior to the written is how well those flashbacks are going to flow, especially with, again, the cut content we talked about with Aldebaran, how they can segment that, whether they make that flow in the actual events of Arc 5 in some way, or they have flashbacks for it, because that's the thing.
Oh, so that's the cut scene that you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
That's that one, and Rem's forced confession with Subaru, which I went back and read just the other day of just how explicit it is.
Yeah.
Right, it's super explicit. Yeah.
It's like, there's no if, ands, or buts. It is just explicit. They are in a romantic two-way relationship there.
There is no ambiguity there. That is what it is.
I think that's a weird editorialization. I mean, like, that's a weird thing to cut from. I don't really understand why.
Only because season 1 was meant to be its own show. If they get a love confession between Rem and Subaru themselves and not between Subaru and Amelia, it feels weird to keep going from there.
So like from a tonal perspective, it just
true. You're expecting more at that point. Yeah.
Like if
you had ended at Rem, then that would have been can work as its own season.
Yeah.
Right.
I think like if they didn't have the mind of this is almost, because it was I would say it's a like 70% chance we weren't going to get a season after, right? Especially with that huge gap of production. Like, I was honestly, when season 2 was announced, I was so surprised. I did not think we were going to get it. So
I think we were very lucky. I actually started giving up hope too. At a certain point.
Too.
I remember it was like the anniversary, like the 3rd or 4th anniversary of the anime, or like without an announcement. And I was like in Disney World, and I was like, man, there really is not going to be another season of ReZero, huh?
Yeah.
The announcement would have been like the month after that then.
Yeah, it would have been.
And then the teaser dropped. Oh, that teaser was so good too. Oh my god.
But like they just completely pretended like they didn't cut the love scene, because in season 2, when he's talking with Carmilla, like that first reveal is there, he says, I love you and you love me, saying ski for both of them. Yep. And English just decides to say like.
Yep.
Which is fine if you had done that in the first place.
But it doesn't come across as the same meaning of what it actually means, though, right?
And isn't the conversation between him and his dad about Rem kind of funny in that context as well? Where it's like Rem saves him, I know, but like there's like the moment where it's like, oh, this is just a girl who, says it believes in me. It's like, okay, well,
that's maybe not the extent of what that actually is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, he does say she actually said she loved me.
Right.
In that point.
Yeah, she said she loved me. Right. You could take that as like, oh, she said she loved me. I didn't say that.
Maybe I don't reciprocate. Kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a little funky. Like, there's always the point where if it's only talking about Rem, then you get Subaru's true unabashed feelings. But if Amelia's mentioned in the conversation, then he prioritizes that just for the dialogue, but not internally.
I think it's interesting how they kind of took to that. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, you go first.
Yeah, I was going to say, they frame Subaru as somebody who, doesn't reciprocate Rem's feelings, but like is emboldened by them. It's like, it's interesting because like that's like
I don't think he did reciprocate during her main confessions.
But like after the boy whale and stuff, I know. But like like there's like this unnatural feeling to it where it's just like. I guess he just sees it as like, I'm glad somebody likes me that much.
It's almost like a gap in the continuity of it, right? Like
it is
because of that cut scene. It's just there is something missing. Like
which they could have fixed that in the beginning of season 3 by having him say it to her sleeping form.
And that's exactly what I was going to say too.
True.
That's a way they can very easily solve that as a problem.
I mean, he does still say in season 2, she's just as important to me as you are.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't think for a lot of fans that, because we pay attention to all the details, right? But some fans, like, even though they will care a lot for the series, they may not like rewatch it multiple times and really think on that. I think directly stating it for them would probably feel a bit more emotionally relieving almost for some of them, especially if you're...
I mean, even for us, I think it would be super cathartic for me just to see it.
Cathartic, yeah.
But like, I'm the only one I know who is as like Rem stand as your girlfriend is. So
I'm not the biggest Rem fan on Earth. I doesn't mean I don't enjoy her or think she's awesome. I just we all know Ram is superior. So
I mean, that flies in the entire face of what Arc 2 is about. But sure, go off.
Yeah, exactly. Rem was right. Is all I'm gonna say.
Superior in different ways.
Your trauma was correct, Rem. Don't grow more as a person. Ram is just better than you. Yikes!
I think
there's a lot to unpack there. We're just gonna.
Yeah, they couldn't unpack that in time.
Yeah, we'll just move on from there. So the Aldebaran cut content, though, I mean, as soon as he sees the Japanese style hotel, then that's just an easy fit in of like, oh, hey, like I recognize that too. Don't you know I'm also from Earth?
Yeah, they have to add it there. They really
honestly,
do.
that would make the most sense.
Yes, it's so strange that they cut that. Honestly, I know you're right. In the framing of this building a larger mystery, we can't do that, right? But this is like, one of the most crucial parts of his character that kind of gives a lot of context to not only him but also Priscilla and her power.
Yeah,
and just to Subaru.
Yeah, Subaru. I think,
and Subaru not being the only one who does this. Yeah.
The lore implications from like a story.
Yeah, it's super huge.
Subaru isn't alone.
Yeah.
Wait, what, dude? When I read that on a light novel, because I first like when I watched the first half of the anime in dub.
Right.
And the second half wasn't dubbed at the time. So I read the English translated light novels. And when I read that scene, after watching Arc 3's anime, I was like, what the fuck? Where was that?
So it's apparent. I mean, it is still there to a degree. We talked about last time how like we've all watched some like reaction channels go through the series, right?
That's how I vicariously live through the series.
Yes. The one that introduced me to it is a channel called Blind Wave. And when they got to that arc, after they like listened to Subaru's whole spiel and kind of white knighting for Amelia in the courtroom, part of their discussion is asking, is Al also from Earth? Just from the way that they have him talk in the dub.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Which I will say was a really nice directive choice.
Mm-hmm.
I can just say Blind Wave is... I do enjoy Blind Wave's reaction to ReZero 2. Good choice.
Yes. It is.
My favorite right now is Autosave.
Yeah,
Autosave is great, but they're second for me. There's another channel which is called Carly and Ange. They're a season behind Autosave, but
they're funny. I like them.
There are so many awesome like reactions to ReZero out there, and if you're like audience at home, if you're interested, I'd highly recommend you look at them because they're really fun, and the discussion in the comments alone is really good. Just make sure you're not spoiling anything for any of the reactors if they're still behind on content.
Right, be very careful.
But I'm really interested. Like I will say, from like my own like writer's brain perspective, I'm really excited to see how they're going to tackle those adaptation challenges because it's going to be really fun to see what they do with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm personally the scene I'm most excited to see adapted. I don't know what you guys feel like in terms of what you're most excited for, but
mine's stupid, so go ahead.
Mine is the Wilhelm Subaru conversation under the moonlight in the bathhouse moment. I don't know why, but I feel like seeing that animated is going to resonate so much more emotionally, because even the voice aspect of when me and Purple voiced that scene, I got so emotional voicing that scene. That just seeing that anime and hearing Yusuke and Wilhelm's voice actor go heart to heart, I'm going to cry my eyes out, bro. It's going to be the most manly tears you've ever seen. But the second one I'm most excited to see is Subaru's speech. Even though I'm excited to see the fights transition from novel to screen, like in general, those two scenes in particular are the ones I'm most excited to see animated.
Yeah, the speech is definitely high up there. My most excited one might actually get cut because it's so minor, but it's just their first night in the city, and it's just Subaru and Beatrice in the room together. As he's like, I think he's either redoing her hair because it got down from the water. Yeah. And he flicks her toe and she pouts about it. Oh my and it's just like the sweetest thing.
Subaru and Beatrice interactions in animated Arc 5, I can't wait to see people's reactions, like anime onlys especially, of like how cute their relationship is. That fills my heart and soul. Them two.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope they do not cut that scene, because that was when I was thinking of my favorite scenes that I'd want to see adapted. When it came to Beatrice and Subaru, thinking about that was the first scene that came to mind too.
What about you, Connor?
So my favorite scenes, there's quite a few of them that I'm thinking of. I'm interested seeing Sirius versus Priscilla, because those are two of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
I'm interested in seeing Lunar Eclipse, because I think that's going to be interesting, seeing her for the first time.
Yeah, seeing that visually is going to be really cool.
I think the Regu Rant, of course, the big one. I'm trying to think. I like let me think. A lot of the scenes where they're all like having dinner by themselves are really nice.
Oh my god, yes.
I'm gonna love seeing them like bicker and stuff like that.
The Reinhard
Takoyaki.
Yeah, we're talking about
the Reinhard Wilhelm interaction. Oh my god, hearing their voice actors like be so awkward with each other is gonna be so fucking cute. Oh my god,
because it's gonna be an entirely new side of Reinhard that we're gonna see for the first time.
And Wilhelm too.
And Wilhelm, yeah.
There's got a little bit of that Wilhelm from backstories, but yeah. There's going to be a lot of interesting depth that we're going to see from these characters that people haven't seen in a long time, and I'm going to be interested in hearing the voice actors take on them. I mean, of course, and also like all the stuff with Bernard Bishop is going to be really fun.
And also if Fortuna, his voice actor, is also voicing Sirius.
Oh yeah,
because that will just basically confirm
it. Yeah.
What do you mean? They just brought Puck's voice actor back for a new role this season. It's nothing. Don't think into it.
Don't think too hard about it, okay?
I'm
getting so excited thinking about it. The amount of hype I have just thinking about the series is making me jump up and down in my chair. Arc 5 especially, right, is the arc I want to see animated the most. So
it was for me for the longest time. Yeah. That's now 7.
Yeah.
Do you know what? That's fair.
Because of all the cool characters in 7 now.
Dude.
Just for the last third of Arc 7 alone, I just have to see that animated.
I have to gush, man. Like ReZero, I have lots of other stories and series that I really appreciate and love out there. ReZero is always going to be my fucking favorite. I don't think that's ever going to change for me. It's just so consistently everything I could want in a story.
Don't say.
It just hits it all for me. I say as this guy that voices Subaru and loves him a lot.
What about for Arc 6 for you 3? Like top scene that you're wanting to get to for 6?
So it has
assuming all the leaks are right and that we're getting both.
It has to be the named chapters for Subaru for me. There is nothing that I could be more excited, because I think in terms of also the music, and because they have to have an epic insert song for the second named chapter, right? I
think they could go silent with it, honestly. They could just let it all scream out, and then just have a soft
an amazing
tone as he just reaches out his hand for him, and it just ends with "You're incredible, Natsuki Subaru."
And hearing Yusuke Kobayashi voice act that scene as two, I'm just.
Oh, it's gonna be good. Yeah.
Nothing
Subarashi, Natsuki Subaru.
Exactly. Oh my god, I'm scared. Whenever I voice that scene for the readings when we get to that point, because we will, as leader of Reverie, I can guarantee you, whenever it happens, it will happen. But it will happen. God bless you.
It will.
And for me, it's probably. I like a lot of stuff with Reed and Julius and stuff. Yes. I like those moments. Yeah, it's good. Amelia and Reed and stuff like that.
Actually, the other one that really comes to mind for me is the scene in the tunnels near the beginning.
That was going to be mine. Because although they cut one of those out.
No, they did in the light novel.
Yeah, one of those moments has been removed.
That's so sad. Oh, that's a shame.
Because it ended up just
repeating
territory, because they go left and they go right and they go left again.
That's fair. I just those loops in particular were such a phenomenal tone setter for the rest of the arc for me.
I mean, it still will be. I think we just don't get Subaru's. It's like we lose another death we did in Arc 3.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah, and
that is one I'm really excited for. You were saying, Gold?
I was gonna say, I'm gonna like the schizo moments from Subaru,
I think part of it comes from just seeing all of it animated and how they're gonna animate Subaru's facial expressions, which I think is gonna be a fucking
Yeah.
And the combination of Yusuke's voice acting for like the insanity that's slowly
The murderous ones, the moments.
Like Murder Becomes a Habit is one of my favorite chapters in all of ReZero ever.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a fucking fantastic one to see. One other I'm actually really excited for is to Patricia, like having Patricia become more and more of a major character.
True. That scene's very sad.
Yeah.
A lot of the scenes with Patricia.
Yeah. So it's I think that's one thing I'm also very excited for. And the last one that comes to mind for me is Ram versus oh my god, I'm freezing on the brain. Name?
Connor as well.
Connor Squared. And I am Wolf.
And he's not Connor.
And I am not Connor, no. My name does start with C though. With the 3 C's. Whoa! Thank you so much for watching our second episode of the ReZero podcast, if you're still here. And have a wonderful week before we see you next time. Please tell us your thoughts and opinions in the comments, and tell us if we're Ron stinky idiots, because we can laugh.
Or if you just liked what we had to say. You can say nice things too.
Nice. Yeah. People can be nice to me. Impossible.
Well, they're nice to me. I'm the Knight of Knights.
Exactly. You are the Knight of Knights. Oh, speaking of which, voice acting with you is very fun, my friend.
Yeah, we got to get that first special out.
Oh, yeah, true.
So, thank you everyone for stopping by, and I hope you have a wonderful week until you see us next time. Goodbye, everyone!
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.